Julian finally decided to end our 10-year love marathon. On the day he was preparing for the wedding of the century, I received a message and photo from a strange girl. In the photo, Julian stood with her, smiling sweetly. Is it fun to force him to marry you? He doesn't love you anymore. Instead of internalizing it, I handed the phone to Julian, demanding an explanation. He smoked in the living room all night, and early in the morning, he walked into the bedroom and said to me, "She's my student, but I did have some feelings for her, that's all. After 10 years of being together, I'm not willing to give up this relationship because of some photos." I put on my wedding dress and let the wedding proceed as planned, but Assistant Liam suddenly rushed out in the middle and said to Julian, "Professor Julian, Isabel knows you're getting married, something happened." The wedding ring hung in the air and suddenly fell to the ground. Julian dashed out the door like lightning. With red eyes, I shouted after him, "If you walk out of this door today, we're completely over." He paused, then left the wedding venue without hesitation. Looking at the dense photos on my phone, my heart twinged. There were no intimate photos together. Only the girl's bright eyes when she was doing research seriously. The moment she pouted and pretended to be angry while eating. The moment she was carefree and laughed heartily when she received a bonus. Most were taken casually. There were only a few selfies of her acting cute in front of the camera. In the past, I would have rushed to Julian, slammed the phone in his face, and then broken up and left freely and easily. But now, just tomorrow, we were supposed to complete our 10-year love marathon. To achieve a positive outcome, to get married. We had notified all our relatives and friends, booked the wedding banquet, and sent out the invitations. Happiness was within reach. But at this critical moment, I discovered something like this. Unwilling to face it, I forced the tears back into my eyes and took a deep breath. I decided to confront Julian and demand an explanation. Julian is a very outstanding man. At a young age, he became the youngest core researcher in the country's research institute. He is also a famous doctoral supervisor at Hua University. After 10 years of mutual support, I understand his character. I put the photos in front of him, my eyes red and a little scary. A trace of panic flashed in Julian's eyes, followed by an undisturbed calm. He probably didn't intend to hide it from me. In this long 8-hour night, he smoked 2 packs of cigarettes in the living room, and I gazed at the stars in the bedroom all night. The next morning, before the makeup artist came to knock on the door, he walked into the bedroom and confessed to me, "This girl is my student, her name is Isabel." I admit I was attracted to her. My heart, which had been suspended in the air, suddenly sank. Then I heard Julian say, "But Serena, it wasn't easy for you and me to get to where we are today. I will make her leave my research group and promise you that this will never happen again." Julian sincerely promised me. In these 10 years, he has never broken a promise to me. I couldn't bear to lose these 10 years of relationship, and even more, I couldn't cut off this love that was deeply ingrained. So I chose to forgive. Until at the wedding, the MC asked the solemn question, "Are you willing to let Ms. Serena be your life partner, to respect her, love her, and cherish her for the rest of your life?" I held my uneasy heart, thump, thump, waiting for him to give me and this relationship a perfect ending. But with the words of his assistant, he dropped the diamond ring on the cold floor. Everyone on the scene watched him rush out of the wedding venue, leaving me behind. Julian's promise was broken. The wedding scene was in chaos. Both sets of parents didn't know what had happened. Assistant Liam's eyes flickered as he explained anxiously. "Something happened to a student under the teacher. She has important research data in her hands. The teacher is just going to check on the situation. I believe he will be back soon." Liam has been with Julian for 8 years. Over the years, he has always been respectful to me, calling me Mrs. Julian with a smile. But now he doesn't even have the courage to look me in the eye. I don't know how much he has been helping Julian to hide from me. What else is there between Julian and that girl named Isabel? Dense pain spread in my heart. Tears fell on the ground uncontrollably. I really felt Julian's betrayal. My parents held my hands, helpless and anxious. This is ridiculous. What data is more important than getting married? To make him leave Serena without regard and just leave? Julian has always been steady, hasn't he? How could he mess up at such a critical moment as a wedding? My uncle and aunt were very guilty and quickly stood up from their seats. His father called him, and his mother held my hand, patiently comforting me. Serena, don't worry, Julian is just a workaholic. This female colleague probably really has some very important data. Don't worry, when this brat comes back, Auntie will definitely make him apologize to you. I clutched the diamond ring tightly, piercing the skin of my palm, leaving marks full of blood. There were also many of Julian's colleagues at the wedding scene. They were looking at me blankly. I lowered my head and laughed through my tears. Julian promised me that he would cut off contact with that girl. But now that girl is in trouble. He ignores everything and abandons everything to go find her. He didn't think about how helpless or embarrassed it would be to leave me, the bride, alone at the wedding. The scene was noisy and chaotic, and the lights flashed dazzlingly. I stood alone at the wedding, accepting the strange looks and pointing fingers from both sides of the guests. For a moment I felt dizzy and everything went black. Serena. The moment my mother rushed towards me, I fell straight to the ground. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. The doctor gently told me, "You are two people now, so don't get angry easily, be careful of your body." I touched my stomach, and my heart sank. The uncle and aunt and my parents standing next to me were extremely excited. "Serena, there's a little baby in your belly. Good daughter-in-law, Julian is really lucky to marry you." I looked at them and forced a bitter and ugly smile. Julian's mother happily held my mother's hand, her expression excited. "This is wonderful. We're going to have a grandchild. What a scare, double happiness." Tears welled up in my eyes. Happy. I feel like this child has come at the worst possible time. Just when I want to give up on Julian, God gives me hope. I took a deep breath, my whole body trembling uncontrollably. Mom saw that something was wrong with me and looked at me with concern. "Serena, does your stomach hurt? The doctor said you got very angry. Are you uncomfortable?" I couldn't hold back my tears any longer, and they overflowed from my eyes. My parents have been most worried about my marriage these past few years. Mom has always wanted me to get married early, but I kept delaying it for Julian's career. Now they are finally going to get their wish, to see me get married with their own eyes. But Julian and I are having problems. There was a sound at the door, and Julian hurried in. My aunt and uncle were immediately relieved to see him and scolded him. "What's wrong with you? Running away from your wedding? Look how upset you've made Serena." Actually, my aunt and uncle are quite open-minded and have been good to me over the years. They are always afraid that Julian will delay me, urging him to marry me and take responsibility for me. Julian is stubborn and doesn't listen to them. My aunt and uncle feel that they owe me and are always trying to give me gold bracelets and new bags. From the beginning of today's wedding to now, they have always been on my side. Julian did a terrible thing, but I always have to save some face for my aunt and uncle. I wiped away my tears and smiled at them. "I'm fine, you guys go out first and let me talk to Julian." My aunt and uncle nodded. My parents didn't give Julian a good look. Before leaving the ward, they carefully told him to apologize to me properly. Julian's face was pale, and his eyes were full of guilt as he looked at me. The ward was quiet. Neither of us spoke first. After a long time, Julian took my cold hand, and after a long silence his voice was hoarse. "Serena, in 10 years I haven't asked you for anything, and our relationship has always been good, but this time, I beg you not to tell anyone about this, so as not to have a bad impact on Isabel, okay?" He left me and ran away from the wedding to find a girl who tried to commit suicide for him. Now when he sees me lying in the hospital bed, his heart still leans towards her. My heart suddenly ached so much that it twisted into a ball, making it difficult to breathe. Before, I always thought that no one could guarantee to love only one person in their lifetime. Julian was just temporarily lost, and I could forgive him. Julian's gaze was too earnest when he said those words. His attitude made it impossible for me to turn a blind eye and treat that girl's matter as a small thing. I lowered my head and laughed with tears in my eyes. "Julian, you shouldn't be asking me, you should be apologizing to me." Julian's eyes froze. The smile that had been frozen on my lips also came to an abrupt stop. The cold wind outside the window blew, chilling people to the bone. With a belly full of anger and grievances, my voice was still calm. "Today, you left the wedding scene without regard for anything. Did you ever think about how I would feel? Hundreds of guests are sitting below, and you just walked away. What do you take me, our family, for? Julian, this is the wedding that our whole family, has been looking forward to for 10 whole years. People's first reaction doesn't lie. He didn't think about how embarrassed I was to be left at the wedding. He wasn't worried about why I was in the hospital. The first thing out of his mouth was Isabel. I couldn't hold back my tears any longer, and they rolled down my cheeks and onto the blue sheets, leaving a pool of water stains. I squeezed out a word with difficulty from my throat. Get out. Seeing that I was angry, Julian softened his tone. Serena, it was wrong of me to run away from the wedding, but that's a life. I'm sorry, I know you must be feeling bad now, and my aunt and uncle will have opinions, but Serena, I can't turn a blind eye to a life. He is a very caring person. We first met at the pet hospital outside the school. Julian brought a stray kitten with a lame leg to be treated. I brought my own dog for a shot. The veterinarian said, "You two are really meant to be. This girl, like you, often brings stray cats she's rescued to me." Our fate began with Julian's act of kindness. All the things from the past made it difficult for me to be cruel. I looked into his eyes. Then what? Are you going to never marry me for her? Or are you going to break up with me for her? Julian was silent for a long time, and a hint of hesitation flashed in his eyes. Just as I was about to be disappointed, he took my hand, his voice calm and firm. Serena, I said I wouldn't break up with you. We've been together for 10 years. No one is more suitable and understands me better than you. Isabel's matter. She is really emotionally unstable right now, I think. After some time, maybe half a year, just half a year, shall we get married then, okay? Julian gave me his assurance again. In the past, he made me wait for 10 whole years for his career. Now he wants me to wait another half a year for another girl. If it was for other things, I could really continue to wait for him. After all, I've waited so many years. But youth is fleeting, and my beauty is fading. I can't afford to wait, but who told me to love him? But actually, he doesn't need to be like this. It's just that he's fallen out of love. I can take it. A suffocating feeling blocked my chest, burning my internal organs. There is also a small life in my belly, waiting for me to nurture. I thought for a long time, my mind full of that girl's smiling face, and the doting smile that Julian showed when he looked at his phone. The feeling of being blocked in my chest slowly dissipated. Suddenly, I don't want to wait anymore. I pulled my hand out of his palm and said softly, Julian. I'm not a smart girl. I've been in love with you since I was 18, for 10 whole years. I remember how nervous you were when you first confessed to me. Your hands and feet were trembling. Your performance that day made me feel amused and touched. I remember when I agreed to be your girlfriend, you hugged me and cried with excitement. That was the first time I felt the existence of love other than from my family. Over the years, you've bought me everything I liked. You fulfilled everything you said, and you've kept every vow you've made to me. For these 10 years, I've always felt that you loved me to the bone. I looked up, and tears suddenly poured out. But today I feel you don't love me anymore. The words "you don't love me" made me fall apart. In 10 years of love, there are too many beautiful memories between us. Julian probably felt a little moved too, his eyes reddening as a tear slipped from the corner of his eye. But in the blink of an eye, it was gone. He wiped away the tear and said to me, "But Serena, if I marry you now, she definitely won't be able to handle it. I'm afraid she'll do something foolish again. Wait a little longer. I promise I'll give you a home. I promise you, okay?" Just as Julian finished speaking, my parents walked in. He held my hand, looking at me anxiously, as if waiting for an answer, and as if afraid I would reveal the matter and cause a bad influence on that girl. 10 years of mutual support, and a child in my belly. My heart is really in chaos. Let me think about it. Okay, then you rest well first. I'll pick you up from the hospital tomorrow. After Julian left, my parents asked me with concern, "Serena, have you been wronged? If you have, then we won't get married. Your parents can afford to support you." I didn't want my parents to worry, and I hadn't figured out how to solve this, so I shook my head and smiled. I haven't been wronged, just too tired. The next day, I packed my things and waited for Julian in the hospital room. He didn't show up for a long time. Around noon, he sent me a message. Did your parents pick you up? I still have work to do in the lab. See you at home tonight. I didn't think much of it and left the hospital room with my parents. But in the hallway, I ran into Julian and that girl. He didn't see me. His heart and eyes were full of Isabel, whom he was supporting. She was tall and thin, with a pure appearance and big, round eyes. This was the first time I saw her. So she was Isabel, the girl who attempted suicide by cutting her wrists for Julian, causing the usually calm and composed Julian to lose his composure at the wedding. Perhaps my gaze lingered for too long, and the girl noticed me. Her face paled, and the medicine box in her hand fell to the ground. She nervously grabbed Julian's arm, like a little white rabbit who had done something wrong. Julian looked over this way and saw me. A look of panic flashed in his eyes, and he walked towards me and my parents. Before my parents could even open their mouths to question him, Julian explained, "Uncle, Auntie, this is my colleague. She's Liam's relative. Liam couldn't make it today, so he asked me to take her to the hospital for a checkup." Seeing Isabel's guilty appearance, my parents looked at him with suspicion. "Is that so? Then why didn't you come to pick up Serena?" Julian was a bit embarrassed and looked at me for help. I smiled and didn't plan to help him hide it. "Isn't she the little girl you abandoned me at the wedding to save? How did she become Liam's family?" The smile on Julian's lips stiffened, and he said unhappily, "Serena, don't make trouble. Mom and Dad are still here. This is a hospital, don't let outsiders laugh at us. Yesterday he abandoned me, the bride, at the wedding to find her. Today he abandoned me, the pregnant woman, at the hospital to accompany her for a checkup. It really is quite laughable." I took a step forward and handed the discharge application to the nurse. Ignoring Julian, people were coming and going in the hallway. Julian's face darkened, and the embarrassment on his face grew stronger. "Serena, don't make trouble." My parents frowned, as if realizing something, and the anger on their faces deepened. My mother pointed at Isabel and Julian, so angry that she spoke. "Julian, why are you yelling at Serena? You said you were working overtime and couldn't come to pick her up, but now you're appearing here. Is this what you call working overtime?" My mother's questioning left Julian speechless. "No, auntie. Isabel quickly walked over. Her eyes were slightly red, and she stood in front of Julian, bowing repeatedly to me and my parents in front of everyone. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Julian. It was me. I caused trouble for you and teacher." "Mrs. Julian, I am indeed senior brother Liam's family member. I'm his cousin. Teacher was afraid that I would have sequelae, so he brought me to the hospital." This explanation sounded good, but it made it seem like my family was unreasonable. I lost my patience and looked at Julian, whose face was unsightly. "Don't give me that look like I made you lose face. You're the one who did something that hurt me." I left the hospital with my parents. On the way home, my mother held my hand, sulking in anger. I knew she had many questions to ask, but I didn't know how to answer. Say Julian cheated? He didn't. Say Julian changed his mind? How do I say it? The phone in my hand lit up, and Julian sent me a text message. "Serena, don't be angry. Sorry about before. I bought you a gift. Remember to sign for it." When my parents and I arrived home, we saw a delicate little cake on the ground. I have a spoiled nature and like romance. Whenever Julian made me angry, he always liked to send me a cake shaped like a Disney castle. I've been eating it for 10 years, and I'm actually tired of it. But Julian is so busy. I felt sorry for him and couldn't bear to see him stay up late every day doing research, and still have to spend time and effort to coax me. So every time I received this cake, I would pretend to be happy, hoping that he would be happy too. Now I finally don't have to pretend. I gave the cake to the neighbor's child and replied to Julian, "It's been 10 years. Like you, I'm tired of even the most delicious cake." Julian probably understood my veiled accusation, and replied with an apology. "I didn't think it through. Tomorrow I'll personally go to the mall to pick out a gift for you." The next evening, Julian rang the doorbell of my house. His eyes were twinkling, and he was smiling. Holding a box in his hand, he showed it to me. "Serena, this is the necklace I picked out for you. Isn't it pretty?" The box was shining brightly in front of me. To be honest, the necklace was really beautiful. as beautiful as the one I saw in Julian's phone. The one Isabel was wearing around her neck. I smiled softly at him. This is the gift you spent the whole day playing with her at the amusement park and carefully selected? A look of surprise flashed in Julian's eyes. He explained. No, Serena, don't misunderstand. I just don't know how to pick gifts, so I asked her to help me with some suggestions. And I was afraid you would misunderstand, so I specially invited a group of people to come together. Look, this is a photo of us eating hot pot together. After speaking, Julian opened his phone and showed me a group photo of him and a group of people. To be honest, if I hadn't seen Isabel's moments in advance, I might have really believed it was an ordinary dinner party. I didn't have the strength to say anything more and collapsed against the door. What about the amusement park? Why do you have to go play with her alone? I held up my phone and showed Julian the moments post Isabel made. In the photo, she and Julian were smiling brightly, looking like a couple. The photos of them eating hot pot together looked even more like a family. Julian's pupils dilated, slightly shocked. How do you have Isabel's contact information? Having been in love for 10 years, I've always been very trusting of Julian. He's handsome and the youngest doctoral advisor. Over the years, countless female students have liked him, but I've never worried, because I always thought he was a responsible man, loyal to his feelings. The facts proved that for the first 9 years, my thinking was correct. The facts also proved that I overestimated Julian. She added me just last night. I originally didn't want to accept, but Isabel kept apologizing in the request list. Almost, just a little bit more. And I would have thought that Julian's crush on her was one-sided. Perhaps it was my unappreciative attitude that made Julian lose face a little. He frowned and impatiently put down the jewelry box in his hand. Serena, I won't break my promise to you. And I won't have anything to do with her. Going to the amusement park was just to say goodbye. Don't be so sensitive. I already invited a bunch of people to eat hot pot to reassure you. Aren't you reassured yet? Julian was getting angry with me. He used to hate even scolding me even once. I raised my head and looked at Julian very seriously. If you had a little bit of male virtue, I wouldn't be like this. After loving him for so long, Julian has long become unfamiliar to me. Over the years, his career has been successful, he's been spirited, and his whole person has shed his youthful appearance, becoming much more stable. The Julian who would keep his distance from all girls for my sake is no longer here. Perhaps I should let go of my obsession, let go of these 10 years, give each other a release. I looked at Julian one last time and smiled clearly. Julian, let's end it here, let's break up. After saying this sentence, Julian's face didn't show the happiness and relief I imagined. The anger on his face lingered for a long time. Serena. I just went to the amusement park with her once. I was also very calm. Where there's one, there's two, and then three. Julian was silent for a long time, so angry that he punched the wall in front of me. In the end, he left with a dark face, without saying anything. Stripping away a decade-long relationship is not easy. That night, I had insomnia. Since I decided to break up, I got up and packed my own things in this house. While throwing things into storage boxes, I couldn't help but start reminiscing. The year of graduation. Julian had just entered Hua University and was extremely busy. A year later, he took a contract signed for 10 whole years and 5 million. And put it in my hand. Serena, I'll give you a home. I keep my word. The teenager in my memory was sincere and brave. The flame that burned when he loved me was more intense than the rising sun. That day, my eyes were red from crying, and I hugged him. I took the bank card and bought this house. We kissed in the afterglow of the setting sun. Blushed and went to IKEA to buy furniture. Chatted so much that we were like two chattering little birds. The string of star lights on the balcony were arranged together, and the rocking chair carried 10 years of rambling years. We snuggled on the carpet in the living room holding a watermelon, drinking soda, and watching cheesy Hong Kong and Taiwan idol dramas. He said he would give me a home. Now he's making me have to strip away this relationship and move out of this home. I spent 3 days clearing out all my belongings. When the moving company came, I told both sets of parents about the breakup. Both sets of parents rushed to the door in a hurry. My parents respected my decision and didn't say anything. Only Auntie Yu anxiously took my hand and asked, "Oh, what's going on? Why did you suddenly break up?" "Serena, Auntie Yu knows that Julian didn't handle the wedding well. But wasn't that matter explained clearly? Why did it come to a breakup?" Uncle Yu pursed his lips and asked me anxiously. "Yes, you've been together for 10 years. How could you suddenly want to break up?" I didn't have the face to tell them what Julian had done. So until today, they don't know why we broke up. "Serena, you're getting married soon. Young couples just quarrel. It's not worth really breaking up." I didn't say anything, letting the movers move the boxes out one by one. Just as Uncle Yu and Auntie Yu were about to wear their lips out, Julian unexpectedly came back. Only behind him was Isabel in a white dress. The house was quiet, and everyone was looking at the two of them, with different expressions. Julian's mother's voice of persuasion got stuck in her throat. When she spoke again, her voice trembled a little. "Julian, did you do something to hurt Serena?" Julian's father widened his eyes in anger. "Son, who is this girl?" Julian didn't answer. He scanned the room that was more than half empty, and glanced at me. "Where are you moving to?" He was still so calm and rational, calmly accepting my departure. "No explicación. No retention." "And he brought Isabel back here without any scruples," I said calmly. "Moving back to my real home." Julian nodded. "Okay, I'll come find you in a few days." After he finished speaking, he pulled Isabel to his side and introduced her to everyone. "This is my research assistant. She had some health problems a few days ago, so I brought her home today to take a look and have a meal along the way." Julian's introduction was open and honest, without the slightest hint of guilt. Both sets of parents were a little confused. Auntie Yu spoke, her voice a little anxious. "This son, Serena is about to break up with you. And you still have the mind to bring a student home for dinner?" Auntie Yu's words made Julian frown. His chest rose and fell twice, and he opened his mouth expressionlessly. "I called off the wedding, which made Serena unhappy. It's good for her to go home and have some peace and quiet for a couple of days. Mom, don't get involved in this." Auntie wanted to say more, but Isabel suddenly stepped forward, enthusiastically taking her arm, and smiling sweetly. "Auntie, I'm Professor Julian's student. The professor takes good care of me in the department. He even said he would treat me to dinner today to celebrate my release from the hospital." But how could I dare trouble the professor to cook? Since Uncle and Auntie are here, why not try my cooking? Aunt Yu was perceptive. She looked at Julian's icy expression, then glanced at my calm face, as if sensing something was wrong. She shook off Isabel's hand and walked towards me with concern. "Serena, why don't we all sit down and talk things out?" The movers finished moving all the luggage. I was about to refuse when Isabel interrupted me, a triumphant provocation flashing in her eyes. "Sister Serena, just agree with Auntie. Why don't we sit down and have dinner together, and try my cooking? What do you say? Last time we met, she called me Mrs. Julian, and now she's changed her address." I looked at her with a cold smile, ready to refuse. The change happened in an instant. A burning handprint appeared on Isabel's face. I stared wide-eyed, watching my mother slap Isabel. "Mom, you." My mother's eyes were bloodshot, and her voice trembled as she looked at me. "I gave birth to you. Do you really think I don't know anything?" That day at the hospital, I saw Julian supporting this girl, their behavior intimate, and her hand was wrapped in gauze from a wrist cutting. Julian ran away from the wedding for her, right? You broke up with Julian for her too, right? You've been with Julian since you were 18, now 28, a full 10 years of your youth. For him, you a well-behaved heiress, learned to cook, knit sweaters, and swallow your anger. If you really couldn't take it anymore, would you have broken up? Would you have come home? Mom doesn't ask you to find someone so great. But today, that Julian brought this girl to our door to slap your face, Mom can't stand it. If my daughter doesn't stand up for herself, I'll do it for her." My mother's words were forceful. Isabel covered her face, the voice she wanted to cry out immediately silenced. Uncle and Auntie were shocked and stunned. Only Julian looked at Isabel with a distressed expression. He looked at me with displeasure, his voice very cold. "Serena, how old are you, still running to your parents?" Before Julian could finish speaking, Auntie rushed out and slapped Julian. You little brat, what are you saying? Do you know that Serena is already pregnant? You're doing these reckless things now. How can you face her? When Julian heard I was pregnant, a deep shock flashed in his eyes. He looked at me, his voice trembling slightly, with a hint of undetectable joy. Serena, you're pregnant? He walked towards me, as if overjoyed. My mother blocked him, her face dark, stopping him. My daughter has already broken up with you. The child in her belly has nothing to do with you. As soon as these words came out, Julian's eyes became anxious. How can it have nothing to do with me? I am the child's father. My mother pointed at him angrily, her voice trembling. What kind of father are you? Do you have a relationship with my daughter? Are you married? Did you have a banquet? Now you want to climb up and claim a relationship? No way. The sounds of arguing and persuasion rose, and the scene was about to get out of control. My face dark, I took out a medical record left by the hospital from the drawer under the coffee table, and placed it in front of Julian. Do you know what I regret most in my life? Julian picked up the medical record and hurriedly opened it. He looked at the ultrasound image clipped inside, overjoyed, muttering to himself, I have a child, I have a child. When Aunt Yu saw Julian's appearance, she quickly nudged him with her arm. Hurry up and apologize to Serena. Julian reacted, raised his head, and looked at me happily. Serena, you're pregnant, carrying my child in your belly. It's our child, the crystallization of our love. I'm going to be a father. His joyful appearance was genuine. But because of the girl he brought back, I was planning a separation. It would be a lie to say I wasn't sad. I looked at him, my throat a little dry. Julian, you can't be a father. I don't plan to keep this child. As soon as these words came out, Julian's pupils shrank. What? Uncle and Auntie also became anxious. No. Serena, this is your flesh and blood. How can you just say you'll get rid of it? I touched my belly, it was warm inside, flowing with a little life that I had been looking forward to for 10 years. I couldn't bear it either. But as soon as I looked up, I saw Isabel behind Julian. No one can tolerate their husband falling in love with someone else. I also didn't want to become the shrewish woman I didn't like. In 10 years of love, I have nothing to be sorry for Julian about. Now choosing to leave, my conscience is clear. If I have any guilt, it is a little guilty for the kindness of Uncle and Auntie Yu. I pointed to Isabel and looked at Uncle and Auntie. Uncle and Auntie, my mom is right. This girl is the reason Julian ran away from the wedding that day. She committed suicide for Julian. Julian also loves her. My words were like a time bomb, exploding on flat ground. Aunt Yu stared wide-eyed, looking at Julian in disbelief. What, son? Didn't you say you ran away from the wedding for the sake of the data? You. My mother held my hand, her face looking even worse. Beast. Beast. You're ruining my daughter's life. Julian's face was blue, and he repeatedly denied it. No. Mom and Dad, Uncle and Auntie, listen to my explanation. Explain what? My daughter has decided to break up with you, and you still brought this girl here to offend our eyes. Isn't this an affair? My mom looked at Julian, so angry that she was spitting fire. Julian glanced at Isabel, whose face was frighteningly pale, and pursed his lips. Auntie, there's really nothing between me and her. She's just my student. Isabel also reacted and nodded immediately. Yes, Professor Julian and I have nothing to do with each other. We are just teacher-student relationship. This hesitant attitude made the atmosphere even more tense. My mom straightened her back and stood in front of me. Julian, you've been dating my daughter for a full 10 years. You should know how much she's suffered. I won't waste words with you today. This matter concerns my daughter's future happiness. I don't care how you're going to resolve it in the end. In short, if my daughter doesn't forgive you, don't even think about getting close to her again. My mother spoke firmly, pushed away Uncle and Auntie who were trying to stop us, and led me away from the scene. On the way home, my mother held my hand tightly. She looked at me, sighed several times, and then turned her head worriedly to the window. I knew she was worried about me. My parents have always had a great relationship, which led to my high expectations for love. I fantasized about having a happy marriage and marrying an excellent man. Julian fulfilled all my expectations, and personally destroyed all my expectations. It would be a lie to say I'm not sad. But even the saddest emotions will dissipate in the long years. If I insist on swallowing my anger and pretending to be deaf and dumb today, and suppress the matter between him and Isabel, it's unimaginable how much grievance I will have to endure in the future. Leaving someone you love deeply and have loved for a long time is like jumping out of a plane about to crash at high altitude. There will be weightlessness, there will be fear. But the moment I land safely, I will be greeted with a new life. I squeezed my mother's hand and smiled gently. "Mom, I'm fine, let's go home." My mother was in tears. Julian's home is in Jing City. My home is in Hai City. Jing City has a dry climate, while Hai City is warm and humid. These years I stayed in Jing City with Julian and rarely went home. Today, I can finally go home and visit. It takes 8 hours on the highway from Jing City to Hai City. During these 8 hours, I thought about many things seriously and chatted with my mother a lot. In the end, I decided to have the baby aborted and go to the UK for further studies. After completing my studies, I will return to Hai City to open a studio and live my life well. My mother is very supportive of me. She patted my hand, raised her head and sighed. "In the past, I hoped most that you would marry into a good family, like your mother, and have someone to care for you. Now I only hope you are happy. As for whether you get married or have children, Mom doesn't think it matters anymore." My mother didn't blame me for messing up this relationship. Nor did she scold me for wasting 10 years of my youth. She didn't even resent me for returning to my parents' home with a child. No matter when or where, the only person who can support me unconditionally is my mother. I took her hand and burst into tears. I cried myself to sleep soundly in the car. When I woke up, there were many missed calls and messages from Julian on my phone. The content was nothing more than that he would keep his distance from Isabel. He promised he wouldn't cheat and promised to love me forever. The tone was very sincere. Along with the messages came a plane ticket. Julian said he was coming to Hai City to wait for me. No matter how I wanted to punish him, he had no regrets. His sincerity in apologizing was sufficient. But I no longer wanted to forgive him. The car drove to the familiar entrance of my home. It started to drizzle. Julian was holding a bouquet of flowers and carrying a big cake. In the rainy weather of December, he was standing awkwardly at the entrance of the building in a thin shirt. My parents exchanged glances and cursed angrily. He did something outrageous himself, and now he still has the nerve to come and beg for forgiveness. His skin is really thick enough. I wonder if you can fry lard from it after cutting it off. Julian listened to these words, daring to be angry but not daring to speak out. His face turned green and then white. I held up an umbrella and spoke softly. "Mom and Dad, go upstairs first." My parents glared at Julian, grunted and went upstairs. I looked up and saw Julian's eyes were red. His chest rose and fell repeatedly, and his voice began to become hoarse. "Serena, 10 years of relationship, I don't want this to be the result. 10 years of love, 10 years of youth." Now he came to my door and said he couldn't accept this result. The light rain soaked my sleeves. My voice was cold and light. "Is it my fault? 10 years of love and affection, only to have you fall in love with someone else before marriage. Julian, you brought this on yourself. It was also the result of my indulgence. It's not like what you think between her and me." Julian roared at me, and the cake in his hand smashed to the ground. Soft and mushy, it collapsed into a pile of mud. I stared at it and smiled. What a pity, can't eat it. What a pity, we have no future. Julian's breathing was a little rapid, and he opened his mouth helplessly. "Serena, didn't we agree? I'll transfer her out of our group. You treat this as if it didn't happen. Didn't we discuss it? I will transfer her away, and I won't betray you. Why do you still want to leave me?" The drizzle was cold, and Julian looked a little agitated. I took a step back, and the rain soaked my pointed shoes. These shoes were a birthday gift from Julian. They were made of lambskin and couldn't get wet. What a pity, even they will be ruined. Because I overestimated my tolerance. Julian, I can't accept that another woman is in my man's heart. Even if I devoted 10 years of my youth to you. Even if I need to lose 10 years of sunk costs for this. Julian glanced at me impatiently, took a deep breath, and opened his mouth. "Serena, no one will always love only one person for the rest of their lives. I just had a brief crush on her, but the person I love is you. You should understand me, Serena. Yes, I understand Julian. The rational and calm Julian never allows his life to deviate from the right track. He planned to get a PhD in 2 years, and he was able to insist on going to bed early and getting up early for 2 consecutive years. He planned to become a tutor at Hua University in 3 years, and he was able to soak in the laboratory and library day and night. Only marriage, he was slow to commit and had no plans. Everything was running according to Julian's trajectory, and I unconditionally cooperated with him. It's just that in his plans, my wishes were never important. Julian, everything in your life is progressing steadily according to your plans. And my life has been changing around your plans. After graduation, you said you wanted to take the Hua University exam, so I gave up the offer from High City to accompany you. You said you wanted to do research, so I made money to support you. I tried my best to satisfy what you wanted, but what about you? I urged Julian to marry me for a whole 10 years. If it hadn't been for his uncles and aunts kneeling down and begging him to marry me a few days ago, that wedding would not have happened at all. Julian, you're so smart, you should have seen this coming. Since you were attracted to Isabel, you shouldn't have come to me again. You can't and you shouldn't hurt 2 girls at the same time. I turned and went upstairs, not taking the flowers he offered. Through the tall building, I stood on the 9th floor stairs, looking down at Julian. He lowered his head, his hands hanging down, a picture of dejected defeat. The bouquet of flowers was wet with rain, the delicate petals withered into a ball. This was probably the worst day of Julian's life as a golden boy. I didn't look at him again, and turned back into the house. The next day, my mother made an appointment for an abortion application. When my mother and I went out, we met Julian at the stairwell. He seemed to have been waiting here for a long time, his clothes wrinkled. Seeing my mother and I preparing to go out, he handed the gift bag forward. Auntie Serena, these are some gifts I bought for you. My mother said coldly, we don't want your things, take them away, don't block the way. He looked at me warily. Serena, where are you going? I didn't hide it. Abortion. Serena. Julian frowned, looking at me with a nasty expression. Seeing that I didn't respond, he looked at my mother, his tone softening. Auntie, can you help me persuade Serena? I didn't cheat. Running away from the wedding was a last resort. This is a child we've been waiting for if it's aborted. My mother angrily retorted. What if it's aborted? Our family has money. I can afford to raise Serena even if she never marries. Aborting the child of a scumbag like you, she has a bright future. Julian's face grew worse. He stood in front of us, stubbornly refusing to give way. My mother used to like him and always gave him a good face. This was the first time my mother had spoken so seriously to Julian. Julian was also a little embarrassed. He grabbed my hand, his voice softened, pleading bitterly. Serena, I've already made things clear with Isabel, and I've transferred her out of our group overnight. I've also made it clear to her that we'll keep our distance in the future, and I won't contact or pester her again. This is the transfer order. It came down this morning. Can you take a look? He handed me the phone, his eyes filled with insistent pleading. I was too lazy to argue with him, and in his expectant gaze, I picked up the phone and smashed it on the ground with a bang. Julian frowned, looking at me helplessly. He was always like this. Even when I broke up with him, he was very calm. Even if I was going to abort his child today, he wouldn't get angry. He always made me feel like he still loved me. And he also made me feel that it was just hormones and hormones at play. Julian, there's no going back. Julian could have solved this matter quickly, but he had to test my attitude, and then apologize when everything was beyond repair. I tried to forgive him, I persuaded myself, but I really couldn't get over the hurdle in my heart. We stood at the stairwell, stuck for a long time. People came and went. Julian looked at me in despair, his expression somewhat painful. Why? Serena, I've already sorted everything out. I haven't really cheated, and I said I would give you a future. Why won't you trust me one more time? Even now he still doesn't understand. Between him and me, it was never a matter of each other's feelings, not even a matter of trust, but that this love, mixed with a third party, was no longer pure. I didn't say anything, preparing to call security to drive Julian away. He roared at me, "Serena." Julian squatted down and knelt in front of me. The ring that had been thrown away at the wedding appeared in his palm. "Marry me, let's get our marriage certificate now. Give the child a home, okay?" Frankly speaking, Julian was excellent. Good external conditions, strong work ability, high social status, strong economic strength. I had feelings for him too. We had a child. Just a little girl who broke in halfway. I could pretend that nothing had happened and continue to be with Julian. But I really couldn't seem to do it. The love I wanted couldn't have flaws. The moment I picked up the diamond ring, Julian's phone rang simultaneously. I vaguely heard Liam say, "It's not good. Isabel knows you transferred her out of the team, and she committed suicide again." The same trick twice. Julian's eyes struggled for a moment, and he gritted his teeth and said, "Don't report her affairs to me anymore." He hung up the phone, looking at me expectantly. "Serena, forgive me, okay? Let's get married again. I promise I'll be good to you in the future." I couldn't help but chuckle, laughing with tears in my eyes. I threw the ring on the ground. Julian picked it up, and I threw it again. His face began to look ugly. I said softly, "Some things don't have a second chance. You betrayed our 10 years of love. I wish you a lonely old age. Julian, I don't want you anymore." This was probably the first time Julian had heard me say such heartbreaking things. He grabbed my hand and hugged me tightly in pain. "Serena, don't abort the child, please. We've been waiting for it for so many years. Are you really willing to abort it? Serena, this is the crystallization of our love. Please, don't be so cruel to me." Julian's words evoked my memories. Over the years, we often went shopping malls, and the place we frequented the most was the baby area. We imagined life after having a baby, laughing as we held pink baby clothes, learning about children's products together with curiosity. This little life was something we had been waiting for a long time. On the road to happiness, we were once really happy. It's just that the current Julian is no longer worthy. I pushed him away and got into the car with Mom. Julian followed us all the way to the hospital, making a scene in the ward, refusing to let the doctor perform the abortion. Looking at his now ferocious appearance, I calmly said, "What's the point? Wouldn't it be better to part amicably?" Julian, with red eyes, rushed over and gritted his teeth at me. "Who wants to part amicably with you? Serena, we've been together for 10 years. I've loved you for 10 years, and now I won't let you do this. You can't unilaterally give me the death penalty. From the moment you were moved by her, you should have guessed that we would end up like this. Serena, I know I was wrong." Julian roared at me, his expression filled with endless pain and regret. In matters of the heart, there is no right or wrong. It's just the withdrawal symptoms of being together for too long playing tricks. I picked up my bag and looked at the doctor beside me. "Sorry for the trouble, we'll come back another day." Julian, seeing that I no longer insisted on the abortion, breathed a sigh of relief. He chased after me, apologizing and repenting incessantly. "Serena, as long as you don't abort the child, as long as you're willing to turn back, I can give you anything. I'll transfer all my money and property to you, give you my salary card, and promise to come straight home after work." Julian kept rambling on like that. Everything I used to like to hear, everything I hoped he would do, was all said from his mouth at this moment. At this moment, I truly believed that he regretted it. After arriving home, I returned to my room alone, quietly staring at the winter snow falling outside the window. High City in December was gloomy and humid. Julian stood alone downstairs, wrapped in a thin woolen coat, with a thin layer of snow accumulating on his head. There was a text message from him on my phone. "Serena, I'll stand here and wait for you until you forgive me." I waited for him for 10 years, and finally it was his turn to wait for me. But I wasn't happy. Looking at the snow slowly falling outside the window, I typed a line. "Okay, I waited for you for 10 years. You can stand downstairs for 10 years. After saying that, I blocked Julian. About half an hour later, the weather turned gloomy. Mom knocked on the door and walked into my room. She placed a bowl of freshly cooked snow fungus soup in front of me and sighed. "Serena, Mom isn't trying to persuade you. Mom just wants to ask, what are you really thinking right now?" My mind was a mess. In these 10 years, besides not being willing to marry me, pushing back the wedding again and again, he was actually quite good to me. He gave me gifts and red envelopes during festivals. Flowers and cakes had become routine. Did he treat me well? Definitely he did. Did he treat me badly? Besides not wanting to get married, he indulged me in almost everything. Isabel's matter was like tearing apart this seemingly loving relationship, exposing it bloody to the air. I made a phone call to Liam. Liam quickly answered, but his voice was a bit apprehensive. I asked him, "Liam, you've called me Mrs. Julian for so many years. I just want to ask you one thing today. When did Isabel come under Julian's wing? And when did she become a student in his research group?" Liam stammered, and finally whispered, She's been here for 6 years. But she's never been able to complete her doctoral thesis, so she hasn't been able to graduate. In other words, Isabel had been with Julian for 6 years. Right under my nose. I thanked Liam and hung up the phone. Then I opened the tablet and checked Julian's research guidance analysis records for students over the years. At Y University, doctoral students can be asked to withdraw if they haven't graduated in 4 years. And in Isabel's thesis guidance comments, Julian always gave her an excellent, but would write at the bottom, "Research direction does not match the topic, needs rewriting." In other words, they had been harboring such thoughts, living together day and night under my nose for at least 4 years. I sighed, took another deep breath and laughed. That's right. I should have known this was the result. What am I expecting and disappointed about now? The sound of an ambulance came from downstairs. Mom rushed into the room again, anxiously saying, "Serena, Julian seems to have fainted downstairs." What? What should we do? I looked up at Mom. Let's go to the hospital too. Over the years, Julian's emergency contact had always been me. I paid Julian's fees, and another 8 hours passed. He finally woke up. The air was filled with the unpleasant smell of disinfectant. Julian already had a youthful face, and I used to love the way he would act cute with me the most. Now looking at me, his eyes were full of attachment. "Serena, I feel so uncomfortable." I didn't feel sorry for him like I used to, and opened the porridge I had just bought on the table. "Eat something now that you're awake." A trace of disappointment flashed in Julian's eyes, and he smiled at me again. Okay. As he ate, he started talking about the past with me. Talking about the moment we took the kitten to the pet hospital for treatment together. Talking about the fun we had founding the Stray Cat Protection Association in the park. Talking about how compatible we were. We were indeed compatible once. Julian carefully looked at my expression, slowly finishing the bowl of porridge. The story was coming to an end, and the regret brewing in his eyes gradually thickened. At the moment the nurse changed Julian's 4 fluids. He grabbed my hand. "Serena, I really regret it. Just forgive me, let's start over, okay?" The wind was blowing gently outside the window. The snow today was far less than yesterday's, but the weather was even colder than yesterday. I lowered my head and pulled a medical record out of my bag. "I had the abortion last night, while you were unconscious." Julian stared at me in shock. He looked at the medical record, unable to laugh or cry. "Serena, oh Serena, are you really so heartless? This is a human life. Why can't you forgive me? Am I really so heinous? Couldn't this child really be kept? Why treat it like this? Why can't you just forgive me?" I looked at Julian and said softly, "Because my love for you has been used up. For the past 10 years, what I've looked forward to most is our wedding, and my dream has been to marry you. Do you remember? I used to ask you every year, when are you going to marry me? Every time you'd say wait, then take out a gift to coax me, and promise me that one day it would happen. I waited and waited, hoped and hoped. I used to think that if I didn't marry you in this life, I would be incredibly sad. But since you left me on our wedding day, I've thought about it a lot these past few days. Maybe what's been trapping me is just an obsession, not you. Julian, I don't love you anymore, so I don't want to have your child." Julian looked at me in disbelief. My words must have broken his heart. He vomited blood right in front of me. A stain of blood instantly bloomed on the blue and white sheets. I quickly called the doctor and sent Julian to the emergency room. Half an hour later, the emergency room doors opened. The doctor came out. The patient just had a sudden rush of blood to the head. Plus he's been staying up too late, working hard day and night. He just needs to rest more in the future. I nodded, and in keeping with the principle of seeing things through to the end, I paid the remaining hospital fees for Julian. 3 days later, there was a knock on the door. I looked through the peephole and saw Julian's pale but well-defined features. It seemed he hadn't given up. I opened the door. He looked at me with a terribly wounded and painful expression. His voice was a little hoarse. "Do you hate me so much that you wouldn't even come to see me when I was sick?" I spoke. "It's not hate, it's that you're not important anymore. From the day I decided to separate, we became the most familiar strangers in this reality." Julian lowered his head. The usually arrogant and conceited him shed tears in front of me for the first time. Tears fell one by one onto the marble tiles in front of me. Julian spoke painfully. "I really can't bear it. Serena, does it have to be a breakup? Do you have to be so cruel to me? Can't we reconcile? Please. Serena, please. Don't reject me, I can't take it. Serena, please." I never thought in my life that Julian would lower his proud head to me. In front of me, he humbly begged me not to leave him, begged me to forgive him. My heart was a little touched. A strange feeling spread through my entire body. Seeing that I hadn't said anything, Julian looked up and hugged me tightly. "Serena, I really miss you, and I can't live without you. Don't be so cruel to me." Julian's appearance left me at a loss. I rubbed my forehead and let him come inside first. The alternating circulation of cold and warm air made me shiver involuntarily. Julian immediately poured me a glass of warm water as he always did, reflexively. I held the glass and sat with him on the sofa, neither of us speaking for a long time. The clock ticked, and the television was playing a Christmas greeting from Santa Claus. Today is Christmas Eve. I drank the water in the glass and put it on the table. "Julian." He looked at me, his eyes filled with caution. I smiled. "I'm going to study in England." Julian's face darkened, and he asked in confusion, "Why?" My gaze fell on a stack of fashion design material books on the table. I used to think that a girl didn't need to be very outstanding, as long as she married an excellent husband, stayed at home to take care of the children, cook and become his support. But in these past few days, I suddenly understood. I also have things I want to do, I also have dreams, and I also have my own sky and pursuits. So I'm preparing to leave Haiching and study in England. Julian's eyes flashed with strong opposition. "But you're already 30, starting now. Don't you think it's a little late?" I smiled. "Late? As long as it's something you want to do. As long as you start now, it's not late." Julian didn't speak, his eyes full of disapproval. In the past, I would have changed my mind and said I wasn't going. But now, we have no relationship, and I don't need to watch his expression anymore. I've already decided, so Julian, you can go back. After speaking, I got up and prepared to return to my room. Julian grabbed my hand. His expression was tangled and complex. "I'll wait for you. Serena, go, I'll wait for you to come back." I didn't speak and pushed his hand away. "It's not necessary, Julian. I don't have the habit of making people wait." The day the offer came, I posted a celebratory message on my WeChat Moments. "Uncle you and Aunt you both liked it. My parents made a table full of delicious food to celebrate for me. When you're out alone you have to take care of yourself, you hear?" Mom patiently instructed, chattering on and on. My heart warmed, and I nodded repeatedly. The next day, I embarked on my trip to England. In the departure hall of the airport, I saw Julian. He was holding a bouquet of my favorite peony flowers, standing at the check-in counter waiting for me. "Serena, I came to see you off." I didn't speak and handed my ID card to the staff. Julian stood to the side, handing me the boxes in his hand one by one. "These are some travel supplies I prepared for you. Things that are hard to buy in England. Take them with you. This is your favorite pastry. I bought some for you, you can eat it on the way. This is..." I was about to refuse. Julian interrupted me with a pleading look. "Serena, don't reject me. Even if we've separated, I still want to be good to you. Let me keep that right, okay?" I took a deep breath and accepted the things in his hands. "Thank you." After the staff handed me my boarding pass, I didn't look at Julian again, and walked into the security checkpoint. He shouted behind me, "Serena, I'll wait for you. No matter how long you want to stay in England, I'll wait for you. Serena, I love you." Julian's airport farewell made countless pedestrians look sideways. They all cast envious glances at me. Even the security personnel gave me a second glance. Publicly declaring love in a crowd wasn't Julian's style. At this moment he was probably feeling uneasy, afraid that after I left, I would never come back, never want him again. I held the things he gave me, clutching my boarding pass tightly in my hand. Julian's figure gradually disappeared behind me. Dusk was approaching, and the sunset view outside the floor-to-ceiling windows in front of the tarmac was particularly brilliant, like the setting sun, and like the dawn of the rising night. I stepped onto the plane, watching the horizon of Haicheng recede into the distance. Everything in this city was, for a short time, irrelevant to me. The plane flew for 22 hours, landing at Edinburgh Airport. The moment I landed, I received a message from an unknown number. "Did you arrive safely? Serena." It seemed this was a new phone number Julian had registered. I didn't reply. While organizing my luggage, I found the diamond ring he had stuffed into the box. I stared at the diamond ring, sitting on the sofa in the living room for a long time. We chose this diamond ring together. 5 carats, 350,000. It was Julian's salary for more than half a year. His colleague and his colleague's fiancée were with us when we chose the ring. When they heard the price of the diamond ring, they shook their heads in fright. Only Julian raised his eyebrows at me, confidently saying, "If you like it, we'll buy it." That was Julian. As long as he could afford it, he would pay for whatever I liked. Perhaps it was because the environment in England was too unfamiliar. My emotions were out of control. I promised myself I wouldn't be sad and tearful for him, but now I was pouring wine down my throat. I wavered. In the days that followed, Julian would send me messages every day, sharing his daily life with me, even though I never replied. The days continued steadily, and I gradually began to adjust to life here. Learning English, taking professional courses, eating and studying with the international students here. Life was fulfilling and full of hope. Julian's matter gradually disappeared from my mind. What occupied my life began to be all kinds of courses, professors' lectures, and exchange studies. I was no longer frustrated and lost over this past relationship. The smile on my face grew more and more frequent. On the day I won the new academic year scholarship, Julian sent me a new message. "It's been a year, Serena. Are you planning to come back?" I stared at this message for a long time. Finally, I looked at the design assignment in front of me and replied to Julian with the first message I had sent him in a year. "I'm doing well here and will continue to stay and finish my studies." After this message was sent, it sank without a trace. Julian didn't send me any more messages for a long time. I didn't take it to heart, until one midday after the start of the semester, in front of the White Dove Church where Big Ben chimed. I saw Julian, wearing a dark blue jacket, standing by the milky white pool. White sacred doves circled overhead, and we looked at each other across half a lawn. He walked towards me, his face a little restrained and joyful. "Serena, I came to see you." After a year, I no longer had the initial resistance towards him. The me now had a future, had studies, had a career. I wouldn't pin myself on a marriage and a man anymore. I was very calm. "Long time no see." Julian and I ate at a casual restaurant off campus. He asked me a lot about my life here, and I answered him one by one. The food was slowly cleared from the plates. Julian put down his knife and fork, and lowered his head in silence for a long time. "Serena, can you give me a deadline?" I looked at him questioningly. He took a deep breath, his face gradually becoming embarrassed. "I just want to know, when will you finish your studies? When will you return to China? When will you continue to marry me?" I was all too familiar with this look of his. In the past, when I asked him when he would marry me, I also looked like this, embarrassed, afraid of putting pressure on him. A difficult to look at expression. I leaned back and replied like Julian did back then. "My current plans are only for studying and my career. As for marriage, I haven't considered it yet." Julian stared at me with a complex expression. "Serena, are you taking revenge on me now?" I looked at him in surprise, shaking my head. I don't have that much on my mind. I really haven't considered it. Who would be willing to get married when they can expand their territory abroad? Julian clenched his fists in anger, his face darkening. This casual restaurant was opened by a Hong Kong person, and it played sentimental Cantonese songs. Julian closed his eyes, his voice hoarse. Serena, I'm 31 years old this year. I can't wait a few more years for you. Can you give me a definite answer? How coincidental. I had said this same sentence to him a year ago. I said, Julian, I'm almost 30 years old. A girl's precious youth only lasts for a few years. When exactly are you going to marry me? What did Julian say then? He held an experimental report in his hand, his eyes full of focus and research on the data. Wait a little longer. Marriage isn't within my range of consideration right now. At that time, I broke down and asked him how long he wanted me to wait. He said he wasn't sure, because he wasn't sure how his future would develop. Only a year has passed, and he can't wait any longer? I smiled. I can't give you a definite answer, because my future is also uncertain. Julian was speechless. We parted on bad terms. The next day, he asked me to meet him at the old place, but only a year had passed, and our way of interacting seemed to have changed a lot. In the past, I was always the one to initiate conversations, finding ways to chat with him. Now I'm silent, and the silence extends to our relationship. Julian tried to start conversations a few times, but nothing really took off. Gradually, his expression became more and more frustrated. Just as he was about to speak again, I said, There's no need for this. If there's nothing to say, you don't have to say anything. He sighed and laughed, saying, I never thought trying to find something to talk about with someone would be so tiring. Actually, finding topics isn't tiring. Having nothing to talk about isn't tiring either. What's tiring is having nothing to say. And when two people want to connect, if one person doesn't reciprocate, like when I used to rack my brains to chat with Julian, he would look at me and say, I'm not interested in what you're saying. Actually, it's nice just being here quietly. Looking back, even in our everyday trivial lives, there were invisible pressures and contradictions. But I always suppressed them in my heart, pretending nothing had happened. I turned my head to the window, watching the flow of people, and asked, How long are you planning to stay here? Julian smiled. I'm leaving tomorrow. I just came to see you. Edinburgh in early spring was filled with scattered cherry blossoms everywhere. I stood up and walked outside. Let's go, I'll show you around the cathedral. Julian followed behind me. Along the way, we encountered many French people and many photographers. They greeted us warmly, praising us for being a beautiful couple, a perfect match. Julian laughed loudly when he heard that. We were lucky enough to arrive at the cathedral just as a wedding was taking place. The groom kissed the bride's forehead and spun her around in a princess carry. The scene erupted with cheers of congratulations. Everyone was infected by this joyful happiness. I looked at Julian and noticed the longing in his eyes. I stared at him like that for a long time, until he noticed and looked down at me with a smile. Why are you looking at me like that? I smiled at him and said, Do you want to get married? Honestly, I don't want to get married at all right now. I feel like my studies aren't finished, and my career hasn't even started. Now is not a good time to get married and have children. The smile on Julian's face froze. After leaving the cathedral, he took me to school. Stopping half a meter away from a cherry tree, he asked me, Serena, are you serious? I turned around and smiled sincerely at him. Yes, I'm serious. Julian, who was leaving tomorrow, took me to buy a lot of things, filling my living room completely. He smiled at me, a look of reluctance in his eyes. Study hard. Take care of yourself. I nodded. The next day Julian left. I didn't go to the airport to see him off. He left a pink gift box on the table. The card was filled with blessings for me. Inside the box was a pink necklace. Unlike the apology gift from a year ago, Julian said he chose this one himself. He thought it suited me. I unfastened the clasp and put it on my neck. In the mirror, my smiling face was reflected, with a calm sense of relief in my eyes. 2 years passed in a flash. I completed my master's degree, and my supervisor invited me to work at a fashion company in Edinburgh. I accepted the offer. One night, a familiar friend from back home suddenly sent me a message. She said that Julian got married. The bride's name is Isabel. I looked at the smiling couple in the wedding photo and replied to my friend. They look good together, wish him well. I wasn't curious about how they got together, because tomorrow I needed to go to a New York fashion company to trade a large order. Completing it could help our company increase its sales by 50% next quarter. Seeing that I didn't care about this matter, my friend gossiped around to inquire. She told me what she heard. It turned out that the reason for their marriage was that Isabel accidentally got pregnant. Julian didn't want to marry her and tried to persuade her to have an abortion. But Isabel told everyone in the entire laboratory about it and threatened Julian to marry her. The experiment was Julian's life. Naturally, he didn't want to cause a commotion because of this, so they got married. It sounded pretty melodramatic. I just listened to it as gossip. But one day at noon, I suddenly received a call from Julian. He asked me, "How are you doing in the UK? When are you coming back?" I leaned back in my chair and replied with a smile. "What? You're married now, and you're still concerned about when your ex-girlfriend is coming home?" My 10 years with Julian could be considered consensual. I didn't blame him for anything after the breakup. Now that I had my own life and career, my attitude towards him naturally lost its initial resentment and indifference. But I didn't expect my casual joke to panic Julian. He asked me in disbelief how I knew about his marriage. After all, we didn't have any other way of contacting each other than this number. I smiled casually. Walls have ears. He was silent for a long time, and then he panicked and began to explain to me. He said that over the years, Isabel had been unhappy with his decision to remove her from the team. So in the second year, Isabel contacted other supervisors and returned to the laboratory. Later, Isabel kept apologizing to him about our breakup. After he made it clear that it was okay, there was no more contact between them. Until one day he missed me too much and got drunk. That day they did it. Julian apologized to me on the phone. "Serena, listen to me, I really did it on purpose. I really missed you so much, and I was drunk." I nodded and continued to listen. And then, Julian said that the next day when he woke up, Isabel made it clear that she didn't need him to take responsibility. But 3 months later, one day, she ran into the lab crying, saying she was pregnant and wanted him to marry her. I explicitly refused and promised to pay for her abortion and follow-up recuperation expenses. I also swore I would compensate her. It was noon, and I had been busy all morning. Hearing what Julian said now, I was quite interested. I replied. "She didn't agree, right?" "Right," Julian continued. The matter caused a stir in the office. Many rumors gradually spread from the research institute. Isabel received a lot of finger-pointing every day, and life gradually became difficult. Finally, one day she broke down. She told everyone about how she used to like him, and said that he secretly took pictures of her and subjected her to theatrical harassment. She made a scene at the research institute, crying and saying that she was transferred from the group because she was unwilling to obey Julian. In fact, everyone with eyes in the research institute could see that Isabel was trying to extort him. But there was no way around it, it was his fault. "Serena, I only have responsibility for her, not love. Serena, can you forgive me?" Julian's words almost made me spit out the coffee I had just drunk. Not to mention that I bravely left him when I had nothing before. Now that he's married and has children, would I go out of my way to be a mistress? I burst out laughing instantly. "Julian, I congratulate you on your marriage to Isabel. I let you go as early as the second year I came to the UK. Now between us, we can be friends or strangers. Besides that, there will be no other relationship." After that, I never received a call from Julian again. In the following 6 months, I met the person I would spend the rest of my life with. His name is Noah. We met at a design exhibition in New York, judging the work of an up-and-coming designer together. We had similar interests and similar living habits. So we made a bold decision. A flash wedding. We held a romantic wedding in Edinburgh, and invited close friends to witness it. Those good sisters who were worried about my marriage gave their highest and sincerest blessings when they met my husband. My parents also shed tears and blessed me for finding true happiness. After the wedding, we didn't choose to return to China, because I still had a lot of follow-up work to deal with here. My husband listened to me and stayed with me in Edinburgh. One day, while chatting with a friend, my friend told me about Julian's recent situation. She said that half a year after Julian and Isabel got married, Isabel changed her gentle and considerate appearance and became arrogant and spoiled. Whenever Julian did something that made her uncomfortable, she would start making a fuss. She started making a fuss at home. Later, Julian became increasingly reluctant to go home and worked overtime more and more often. She started making a fuss at the company. Julian was very busy at work and often needed to concentrate on one thing with high intensity. I never bothered him when he was working before, but Isabel was different. In order to show her status in Julian's heart, she demanded that Julian reply to messages instantly, answer calls instantly, and go home promptly after work. In order to prevent her from making a fuss at the company, Julian was forced to stop a lot of work and risked being demoted to set aside a lot of work time to accompany her. In about a year, Isabel became pregnant with a second child. During her pregnancy, she became even more arrogant and domineering. Julian was often forced to go home halfway through work. Soon, Julian was demoted to an ordinary researcher because he could not undertake the tasks assigned by the research lab. My friend had some old friends in the research institute who heard that Julian tearfully begged Isabel to let him go that day in the research institute. Not long after, Isabel came to the research institute with a big belly and made a scene. The content of their quarrel was nothing more than, "You were the one who coveted me first, and now that you've married me, you're starting to dislike me." Julian loudly argued that Isabel didn't give him space. Isabel loudly argued that Julian didn't know how to be considerate of women. During the quarrel, Julian accidentally smashed a laboratory bottle. The bottle broke and the shard slid to Isabel's feet. She didn't notice and stepped on it. The sharp glass pierced the soles of her feet, and her whole body lost its balance and fell to the ground. The glass cut through her lower body and a torrent of blood flowed out. Julian was shocked, but it was too late to send her to the hospital. Isabel lost the child on the spot and had a permanent illness. She will never be able to have children in this life. In the third year after their marriage, the two became a famous resentful couple in the research institute. Everyone avoided them like the plague. You have no idea how relieved I was when I heard about these things, ha ha ha. When my friend told me these things, I was a little dazed. The man I loved for 10 years had come to this end. It really confirmed the saying, "Those who betray sincerity will swallow 10,000 needles." Another year passed, and my parents' health began to deteriorate. I gradually transferred my work abroad back to China, and returned to Haicheng with my husband. On the day I returned to China, Julian somehow got the news. As soon as I stepped out of the cabin, I saw him standing in the crowd holding a bouquet of roses, his eyes following me closely. I hadn't seen him for many years, and he looked much more haggard. The crowd was surging, and I saw my parents in the chaos and greeted them with a smile. Julian came up and blocked our way. He handed the bouquet of roses to me and forced an awkward smile. "Serena, it's been 5 years. Congratulations on returning to China." I nodded and pushed the roses back. "Thank you, but you should take the flowers back. My current identity is not suitable for receiving his flowers. His identity is even less suitable for giving me flowers." Julian lowered his head and forced an ugly smile. "I know, you still haven't forgiven me. Serena, after so many years, I actually always wanted to say sorry to you again." I frowned and looked at him strangely. "Julian, if you really cared about me, you shouldn't have appeared in front of me today, let alone come to see me with flowers. Have you forgotten that you are a married man now? Isabel is not easy to provoke, and I don't want to get involved in your two's affairs." Speak of the devil. Isabel appeared at the corner, her eyes looking at me as if they were poisoned. The former innocent girl had already changed her appearance. The current Isabel is just a resentful woman in the crowd. She ran to Julian, slapped him in the face and burst into tears. "I knew you couldn't forget her. I've been with you for so many years. Why won't you even look at me? She's so good. You rushed over to pick her up as soon as she came back to China, regardless of anything. Have you forgotten? You're already married to me. There's no future for you and her. Julian probably felt ashamed and disgusted. He roared irritably and threw her to the ground. Enough. Isabel, when are you going to stop making a scene? I just came to see an old friend, that's all. Why do you have to control my life all the time? Isabel's tears were more genuine than I'd ever seen. Each teardrop fell like a thread. Her hand trembling, she parted her lips and said, "Old friend? The old friend whose name you still call out in your sleep. Julian, oh Julian, if you loved her enough, why did you even bother with me? If you really loved me, why did you come to see her today?" Julian was speechless, frozen in place, clenching his fists. Undeniable. Isabel was right. If you love someone, you shouldn't be interested in someone else. In the midst of the chaos, Noah appeared behind me, holding our daughter's hand. "Honey, who is this?" Our daughter jumped on me. Julian stared at Noah behind me in shock. He watched Noah look at me with doting eyes, holding up the KFC he had just bought. "Your fries, burger, and mashed potatoes." Isabel also looked at Noah in shock. Realizing he was my husband, she looked at our family of 3 and laughed through tears at Julian. "This is the woman you've loved and missed for so many years. She has a husband and children, and only you are foolishly waiting for her. Ha 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 ha." Julian's face was pale, and a hint of pain flashed in his eyes as he looked at me. "You got married?" I nodded. "Yes, this is my husband and child." My frank attitude made Julian's eyes turn red. His voice became hoarse. "How come I never saw you post anything on WeChat?" I frowned, but suddenly remembered that when I deleted Julian, I seemed to have forgotten to delete his alternate account. No wonder he never asked to add my contact information all these years. That WeChat account, I haven't used it for a long time. Julian's face was pale, and he let out a miserable laugh. "Is that so? Congratulations to you." His tone sounded regretful. I remember it was probably the second year after I came to England that I saw a Eason Chan concert alone in New York. There was a lyric in it that went something like this. "My greatest regret is that your regret is related to me." I thought of Julian at the scene. At that time, I suddenly understood that infatuation is temporary, but commitment is eternal. So, about Julian, I no longer had any regrets. That day, our family of 5 left the airport laughing. No one took Julian and Isabel's affairs to heart. No one wanted to mention people from the past again. But unexpectedly on the same day, Isabel slit her wrists and committed suicide. Julian thought she was pretending and didn't care. The person just died bloodily in the bathroom. The body was discovered by Isabel's colleague who went to her house to deliver food when she didn't come to work in the morning. After the colleague called the police, she immediately rushed to the research institute and slapped Julian hard. "When you were with her, didn't you know that she was emotionally unstable? She could commit suicide for you even when she wasn't with you. Now she's really dead for you. Are you happy? If you don't love her, please don't hurt her." The colleague made a loud scene with red eyes. Everyone in the research institute knew. Julian's wife committed suicide by slitting her wrists, and everyone avoided him. The social impact of this incident was somewhat significant. The higher-ups held a meeting and decided to fire Julian. Julian's parents cried their eyes out, and the news spread throughout the old lady's circle. When my friend told me, I was silent for a long time. Good fortune and bad fortune are intertwined. Julian should have thought of this ending from the day he betrayed me. Traitors go to hell. I didn't care about his affairs anymore and booked amusement park tickets for my daughter. Our family of 5 will go ride the carousel tomorrow.